Hey, Kat, how you doing? All right, thanks for your submission. Interesting, interesting. Of course, yeah, this is much. I think we're all in agreement here that I know several other students have mentioned it, and I totally agree that this assignment looks and sounds a lot easier than it is when you're once pencil hits paper. So, yes, good observation. Soft lead. I think a soft lead is a way to go here because we really want to see some contrast so that we can check the optical relationships associated with your letter form. So I think a soft lead is good, but yes, it is going to be a little bit messier. So maybe something not quite so soft the next time around, but you definitely want that contrast. So um, I'm guessing you scanned this because we have a little bit of artifact showing right there. So, but that's cool. I get it. You got some good contrast here, and that's all that matters. So, I think that the letter forms themselves, the way that you've depicted the letter forms, I see you say the first N is a little thin on one stem, and yes, it is. I can definitely see that. So, little things like that. The second N looks pretty good. Um, the relevance of this, and if you've looked at some of the other video critiques, the relevance of this exercise, and I still do this exercise, and it's a fantastic exercise to do. After practicing with design for 25 years, I still do this, and I love sharing this story because students I've got students that have emailed me saying, really, you still do this? That's awesome, because when you think about it, it's a fantastic exercise. If I have a client that wants a project done in using a typeface that I'm not familiar with, now I don't tell the client this, but I'll definitely sketch it out. I'll definitely really manually draw out to check out these, to develop an intimate relationship with these optical relationships associated with said typeface, right? It's the only way to do it is to get down and dirty and really just draw it out and say, oh, okay, I see now. Yeah, that is larger, and that's smaller, and that's wider, and that's thinner, and that's rounder, and that's straighter. And it's really a great exercise. So it's very practical. Definitely very practical. Okay. So you talked about the lines on the paper, and that you can leave the lines on the paper. That's fine. I think one of the things I'm seeing right here is it's hard to say, but it looks like this baseline is kind of on a diagonal. It seems to be higher on this end than it is on this end. So when you draw your baseline, mainline, cap line, and if you picked up on this, fantastic. If not, note this when you're going to your final. But this is the assignment part one, trial by fire banana. First iteration, the instructions say to begin, draw baseline, mean line, and cap line on the marker paper. Kat, why does that comment not make sense? It's not a rhetorical question. I want you to think about it. You should be answering this question in your head right now. Why does this not make sense? To begin, draw a baseline, a mean line, and a cap line. And I know you by now, Kat. I know it's only been a couple of days, but I know you're very thorough. And right now, I'm imagining you thinking, okay, after studying this week's course materials, it doesn't make sense to draw the baseline, mean line, and cap line first because the mean line and cap line are associated specifically with individual typefaces. They're not a universal. All right, a baseline is not equidistant to a mean line, which is not equidistant to a cap line. They all depend on the specific typeface. So if you thought that, that's fantastic. You're onto something. If you didn't pick up on that, definitely think about it as we move into final. So as we move into final, what you're going to do is you're going to draw your baseline. Make sure that's perfectly level baseline. I don't care if you use a T-square. That's great. Just get that straight. Get that baseline perfectly straight. Trace your cap B on the baseline. Establish your cap height. Draw that so it's perfectly parallel with the baseline. Okay? It can't fluctuate at all. More importantly, the next thing you're going to do is trace out your first lowercase a. And just don't trace it out yet. Just get yourself some markings. Just mark a little bit. Get that cap height, that X height down, which is the height of the lowercase letters. Establish that mean line, and then draw that, making sure that all three lines are perfectly parallel and do not fluctuate in their distance from one another. Equidistant all the way through. That'll establish some good guidelines. Then all you have to do is worry about spacing. Right now, I think you're spaced a little bit wide. And the reason this is of relevance is this. And I know that you've looked through some other critiques by now. And you've heard me say this, and I'm repeating this to every student because it's this important. The relevance of letter spacing is this, is our eye, when letters are spaced optimally, our eye the brain picks up words as words. Subsequently, picks up sentences. We're able to look at sentences as in chunks as opposed to reading every single syllabus and word in a sentence. We're able to read it in chunks. These are called saccadic eye movements, and with optimal spacing, saccadic eye movements are minimum. If you don't have optimal spacing, saccadic eye movements there's more of them. Okay, so your eye would be breaking more often and not allowing your brain to interpret words as words. Rather, your brain interprets words as series of letters. Conversely, interprets sentences not as full sentences, but as individual words. And you can see that will slow down the reading, to slow down the legibility a little bit. So that's why this is so very important to get spacing as it's associated with leading, kerning, line space, tracking, character count, etc. Okay. Where can we go from here? I want to talk about kerning a little bit, and then I want you to take a look at the kerning game, and this is something that I introduced in week 2, but I thought I'm going to introduce it in week 1 because it is relevant, but it's type.method.ac, or just go to Google and enter the kerning game. And this is how it works, okay? So it allows you to take these letters, and here's a letter, here's a word, and it starts with simple words, and you can take your arrow, your keyboard arrow, or you can move these manually. Now what you want to do is you want to get these kind of where you think they really are showing equal volume between the letters, all right? And once you think they're about where they should be, go ahead and compare. And you should say 100 out of 100. Not too bad, Maldonado. So, you know what I'm saying? So try these. Try a few of these. Matter of fact, there's only about 10 of them. Excuse me. So go through those and try to get a feeling for kerning. Then come back. Open your software and start working with software you're kerning. I want this to be a robust learning experience. So I want you to open up the kerning game, your software, whether it be InDesign or Illustrator, and work with kerning there. And then also have your sketch open and determine how you're going to space these letters. But general rule of thumb in a sans serif typeface is as follows. The tightest kerning is between 2 curved letter forms. All right. Next widest kerning would be between a straight and a curved. And the widest kerning is going to be between 2 straights. This is review. It's in the course materials. The reason for this, again, has to do with volume. So if we don't really think about that open counter right there, but if you just close that down right there, you can see that this volume right here between the baseline and the mean line, this volume right here should equal this volume right here, all right, which should equal this volume right here, which should equal this, et cetera, right? But it's not an absolute measurement. We have to adjust for these curves and straight lines, and we have to adjust for these optical illusions that occur therein. So, again, the closest kerning is 2 curved, then a curved and a straight, and then 2 straights. And the reason why is, again, has to do with volume. So imagine filling this with water and filling this with water. This is going to fill up a lot quicker if these 2 straights are too close together, right? You don't want that. You want these to imagine these filling up with water at equal level. And again, don't worry about that counter right there. Just imagine there's a line right there so that these would all fill up. And so again, you can see where it makes sense that the curved letter forms are closest, the curved and the straight are next widest, and then the widest would be the 2 straights, okay? I think that's about all I have, Katrina. I know, at 9 minutes later, right? I just want to really provide a good sound critique here for the first. This is so important, and it's just such a great foundational lesson in kerning, and it's a great way to start your learning typography. So I want to be as thorough as possible. So feel free to go through the discussion board, view as many video critiques as you can. A lot of comments that I may not have mentioned in your video critique will be applicable to your work. So be sure to go ahead and view a few of those. All right, fantastic job. So if you have any questions at all, please let me know, and I am looking forward to seeing your final banana. Thanks, Kat.